Exciting news, Wine Coven! We are doing a live show at the Fitzgerald Theater in St. Paul on Saturday, September 21st, 2024.
We love the Fitzgerald.
We do. We love them so much.
This is going to be a wild and witchy time with a feral girl theme, and we are working on some, I'm going to say, masterful costumes.
Yes, we
are very inspired by the film The Craft. And we definitely encourage you to dress up. We love a theme.
We are the weirdos, mister. Yes, we're so excited. So get your tickets before they sell out. Head to wineandcrimepodcast.com for that sweet, sweet link. I'm telling you, act fast. Presale was already a big success, so tickets are going to go real quick. You don't want to miss it.
They're going to vanish into the night.
Yes.
And we cannot wait to be back at the Fitzgerald Theater and to see all of you on September 21st.
Wine and Crime contains graphic and explicit content which may not be suitable for some listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Listening to Wine and Crime, the podcast where two friends chug wine, chat true crime, and unleash their worst Minnesotan accents.
You darn tootin', and it's almost state fair season. By the time this comes out, it'll be right around the corner.
Nice.
Yeah.
We got some new good foods at our state fair for this year.
Yeah. My friend sent me a link to some of the new foods, and I'm fucking ready.
Yeah.
I don't know if my baddie is ready, but she better get ready.
Bring your Imodium.
Yup. And my Zofran.
All of it.
For both ends.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm Lucy.
I'm Amanda.
We're both very excited for this state fair season.
Yes, we are.
Today we have a very special fan pick. Actually, first, we have some housekeeping.
We do.
A little bit of housekeeping.
So we have been getting understandable and absolutely fair complaints.
Totally valid.
And valid complaints about some third-party ads that, like automatic ads that have been on our show, specifically political ones. And we just want to, we've clarified this before. We'd like to clarify it again. We have those like categories toggled off on our end for automatic ad insertion that we can control and get paid for. But other podcast apps do their own automatic ad insertion that we cannot control and do not get paid for. And there's a ton of political money right now to put those ads, especially geo-targeted ads, on your feeds. We are not choosing those. We are not getting a dime for those, and we can't do anything about it. We've complained to platforms before, and it's crickets. There's nothing you can do. It's just part of their like terms and conditions of having your show on that platform. So I'm sorry if you were bombarded with an ad that was unfavorable, especially in the political arena. We did not approve that, but like,
'tis the season.
We can't do anything about it. So I would recommend redirecting your frustration to the platform that you're listening on, because they don't listen to us when we reach out to them. Maybe they will listen to you as a consumer of podcast media. I don't know. But yeah, we've gotten a lot of DMs and emails about some of these political ads, and the unfortunate response is we know and we can't do shit about it. So we're really sorry. And yeah, that's it. We can't.
That's it.
We can't do anything about it.
Yep. We just saw
tried.
the influx. We saw the influx of people talking about it, so we just wanted to address it for everyone.
Yep.
Anyway, don't forget to vote. And today we have a very special fan pick.
Yes, we do.
So a while back, we had our Hot Girl Summer campaign, which when this airs, it will be coming to a close.
Yep. But don't worry, we'll be transitioning into something for the fall, so
Yes.
stay tuned.
This is another one of our limited run special edition merch
I am
on our Bonfire store.
so excited for this limited merch that's coming for fall.
Fall's going to be fucking great. But for the people who made purchases on our first run of our Hog Girl Summer campaign, we chose 3 customers at random to have their own fan pick, and this winner was Elise Pangrazio.
Oh, Elise! Grazie, Elise Pangrazio!
And Elise chose the topic of Rochester Crimes.
I am thrilled about this as a former Rochesterian. And that's Rochester, New York, not Rochester, Minnesota. We also have a Rochester, home of the Mayo Clinic.
Yep, Rochester, Minnesota's gorgeous.
This is gorgeous, but this is also gorgeous upstate. Little sleepy. My friend Sam Voight always called it the city that always sleeps.
Little industrial.
Little
dirty.
Kodak was the big drive, and then that went under, and we'll get a little bit into that. But I am so excited about my segment. Both my wine segment and my case today.
I'm really excited to see what you have for us. So, should we get going? Amanda, what is our wine crime pairing for Rochester Crimes?
My wine pairing this week is robust. It is very, very special because we partnered with an incredible winemaker who, fittingly to this episode, at least for my contributions, was a former member of the New York Mafia turned winemaker.
Amazing.
So Michael Franzese, now founder/owner of the wine company of the same name, was an ex-mobster from the New York Colombo crime family and was one of the top earners in that time, making up to $8 million a week in a gas scheme. A mob
get into gas
scheme. Yes. And since I had never heard of this, I'm going to kind of teach you how to do it a little bit, but not
Teach
because
us how to gas scheme.
We'll never have the connections or access to be able to do this. But this is what went down.
Okay.
This is from his Wikipedia page. Quote, in 1981, Franzese was contacted by Lawrence Salvatore Iorizzo.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying. Who had developed a scheme to defraud the federal government out of gasoline taxes in 1985. Iorizzo was being hassled by criminals in California and offered Franzese a percentage if he would defend and solve the issue. The pair set up 18 stock-bearer companies based in Panama. Under law at the time in Panama, gasoline could be sold tax-free from one wholesale company to the next. So Franzese partnered with the Russian mafia in Brooklyn in the gas scheme.
My God.
The wholesale gas was sold to one company but shipped to another company, while a third company, a dummy company, sold the gasoline on paper and would forge tax documents for the company that received the gasoline.
That's genius.
It's genius. Victimless crime. Fuck the government. I'm living for this. Franzese's crew was then able to collect and pocket the 9 cents per gallon of gasoline in federal tax, and they're selling it by the barrel. So that sounds low, but that's a lot of money.
Lot of gas.
Lot of gas. Once enforcement agents attempt to collect the tax from the dummy company, it declares bankruptcy and the daisy chain would continue. Sorry, we can't pay. This gasoline supplied between 1/3 and 1/2 of all gasoline sold in the New York metropolitan area. The scheme that he was peddling.
Holy shit.
According to officials, Franzese kept 75% of the profits, making $1.2 million per month, while Iorizzo made $45,000 per month. And this is in the 80s, so it's obviously worth more now. An associate later testified that Franzese personally made $1 million per week from the gas scheme, and Franzese himself had claimed that at the height of his career, he generated up to $8 million per week.
Holy shit.
Revenue officials estimated $250 million in gasoline tax was stolen in New York State per year of this scheme before they moved to Florida, which was estimated to have lost $40 million to $250 million in stolen gasoline taxes.
How long did this scheme go for?
Several years.
Whoa.
But, he did his time. He went straight. And now his life is devoted not only to great wine, but to like speaking to others about redemption, forgiveness, moving forward, and ultimately how you can rebuild your life after choices and circumstances of ill repute.
Wow. I love this.
So they actually reached out to us because they're like, wait a minute, our brand is perfect for your content. And we were like, yes. Yes, it is. And so they sent us some wine. The specific wine we're drinking today is their Areni. This is an incredible Armenian grape where the first vineyards ever discovered were located, and they're dated to be about 6,000 years old. This is actually an amazing anecdote. This is from Som TV magazine. Quote, believed to hail from the village of Areni in southwest Armenia, this grape variety derived its name from its ancestral home. However, its historical significance came to light in 2011. You're going to fucking love this. When archaeologists unearthed a remarkable discovery in the Areni 1 cave complex. Perched above the village, like in a mountainous region, was a series of caves that served as a cavernous time capsule. The world witnessed the revelation of the oldest known winery dating back at least 6,100 years.
What the fuck?
Like they would grow, produce, and people would literally like go drink wine at these caves. There's like archaeological evidence of this in Armenia. How fucking cool is that?
That is so fucking rad.
They found an ancient wine cave, which makes perfect sense because that's perfect cellar temperature.
Yeah.
They're probably growing beautifully in that like mineral rich rocky mountainside.
Kind of arid.
Yes. It's so fucking cool. It's so cool. Oh. So this is an ancient style wine which has growing popularity in the United States. And with this grape at the forefront of their portfolio, Michael Franzese Wines are on the way to becoming the biggest Armenian brand in the United States. So definitely a winemaker to keep an eye on for sure.
Yes.
A little bit about the grape itself, again from Som TV magazine. Areni wines have medium tannins, medium to high acidity, and a silky texture, showcasing its aromas of red and black fruits with hints of cassis and spices. Flavors of cherry, raspberry, mulberry, and blackberry culminate in a slightly bitter yet pleasing finish. The aging process, whether in traditional amphore or oak barrels, adds nuances of vanilla and smoky notes. Most versions are recommended for consumption within a couple of years of release. However, top-tier expressions can evolve and gain complexity for a decade or more.
Or 6,000 years.
Yup. The grape's unique profile draws comparisons to a fusion of Pinot Noir and Sangiovese, making it a distinctive player in the global wine scene. So it's kind of, you could see even from the shape of the bottle, if I just saw this on the shelf, I would assume this was a Pinot Noir. It's kind of considered like the earliest grape variety of Pinot Noir, but it's fruitier and a little more versatile. This bottle in particular was recently rated 93 points, which is super high for this particular varietal and for this price point. Typical wines rated 93 range somewhere between $50 to $100. This bottle retails for $30 online, and you can buy it at franzesewine.com. That's FRANZESEWINE.com. And for a limited time, if you use that promo code GALS at checkout, you get 15% off.
Ooh.
It sounds like they ship to most states that allow for alcohol delivery. You can also get it in person in California, Illinois, Wisconsin, and New Jersey. We need to get the fuck on it in Minnesota because I mean, the label is beautiful. It's got the fingerprint.
Yeah.
I just thought this guy's story was so fucking cool that the backstory of the grape itself is so fucking cool.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to pop into it. So shall we open this bad boy up?
Yes, please. I am eager to hear how it tastes.
I can't wait. So yes, definitely go to franzesewine.com, FRANZESEWINE.com, and use that code GALS for 15% off at checkout.
And thanks for giving our listeners that cool discount.
Oh my gosh. Yes, they were not required to do that, and we so appreciate it. This wine is amazing, and the price points are already very accessible, and they're being so gracious and making them even 15% more accessible. So I appreciate it. All right, here we go. Oh!
Ancient pop.
Oh my God. It smells so good.
Dang.
I've never tried this varietal before, so I'm really, really excited to do this for the first time with you. It's a gorgeous color.
Sounds good.
It's really beautiful. You could definitely tell that it like is akin to a Pinot Noir, but it's darker. It's like a richer color. It's not as see-through as a Pinot Noir, but I think if you got some good light on it, you could probably see through it. Here we go. Oh, fuck, that's good. Oh my God.
Mama's
Ooh,
getting
this is
drunk
so
at 1
interesting.
p.m.
It's fruity for sure, but it has this beautiful kind of leathery, almost smoky, dry finish.
Ooh.
That is really fucking good. I see what they mean by saying it drinks similarly to a Pinot Noir. Like the mouthfeel is on the lighter side, but it definitely has more complexity to it. This is a very fucking cool varietal. Thank you so much to Michael Franzese and his team for sending this out to us. This is phenomenal. So cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Go get you some. Hopefully this bottle makes it through the whole episode because this shit's real good. All right, before we move on to your segment, Lucy, should we take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsors?
Yes, let's. So I'm seeing mushrooms like everywhere.
Yeah, it's a shroomy time.
It's a very shroomy time to be alive. So yeah, mushrooms are all the hype right now. And I was excited to see mushrooms as like a prominent ingredient in a coffee alternative.
Mm-hmm.
Because my gut does not handle actual coffee very well.
Mine either, babe.
But I like a little morning. I'm groggy in the mornings. I have a baby now. Like, my mornings are a lot longer these days, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine.
And that's why I'm really into this product called Mud Water. So Mud Water is a coffee alternative filled with chai, cacao, lion's mane, chaga, reishi, cordyceps, turmeric, and cinnamon. Delicious.
Yeah.
So this gives me my energy fix without like my heart going nuts and other parts of my body going nuts.
Yup.
So Mud Water is like coffee's chill, like yoga loving cousin who went on a spiritual retreat and came back more zen and like without all of the nervous jitters.
Uh-huh.
So you can be calm and collected and also alert, but you don't have trouble falling asleep at night. It's like all the best things about coffee. So give Mud Water a shot and save big because our listeners get up to 43% off your entire order, free shipping, and a free rechargeable frother with our exclusive link. Head to mudwtr.com/gals.
I am obsessed with their matcha powder.
Of course.
You know how much I love that. It is so tasty. It's not too sweet. It's like this elegant Japanese matcha powder. It gives such nice energy. It has 55 grams of caffeine in it, but it's not like sending me to the moon.
Outer space.
Yeah, I'm obsessed. It keeps it chill, but it keeps me alert. Every single ingredient in Mud Water's products are 100% USDA certified organic, non-GMO, they're gluten-free, they're vegan, they're kosher. There's also 0 sugar and no sweeteners added. This, for the diabetic girlies like me, is huge. I love this. Each ingredient in Mud Water serves a specific purpose. With organic ingredients for a clean, natural boost, Mud Water's smooth, earthy flavors provide a delicious and natural source of energy. Their OG blend contains cacao and chai for a hint of caffeine and hot chocolate-like flavor. Like, it's so decadent. I love it. It's got lion's mane for focus. It has cordyceps to promote natural energy, and both chaga and reishi to support a healthy immune system. I love that. So, like, if you're one of those afternoon coffee people, like a 3 p.m. cup, but that has to cut back because now you're staying awake all night contemplating every bad choice you've made to get you to that moment. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
Yeah, I love an afternoon cup, and then 1 a.m. rolls around and I want to crawl out of my skin. Let's not do that anymore. Switching to Mud Water can help you say goodbye to those sleepless nights, even with that 3 p.m. cup. It's got all the energy without the late night existential crises. Hi, big win. To use mud water, you simply drop the powder into your favorite mug, pour some water on it, and give it a mix. Some go wild and add creamer, honey, even CBD. You can kind of doctor it up, be a mixologist. If you're not into the caffeine, but you want all of the other incredible benefits of mud water, there are also caffeine-free blends available. And the best part about mud water is it provides sustained energy without the spikes and crash of traditional coffee. I love it.
For a limited time, our listeners get up to 43% off your entire order, free shipping, and a free rechargeable frother when you use our exclusive link. Head to mudwater.com/gals and grab your starter kit. That's up to 43% off your order at mudwtr.com/GALS. After you purchase, they're going to ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Stay energized and refreshed all summer long with Mud Water, because life is too short for anything less than natural, delicious energy.
Preach. There is no need to live in fear of like thigh chafing in the summer or any time during the year. We don't have to live like this, okay? With Honey Love, you can feel your best even when you're wearing a little less, because they use targeted compression to enhance your curves instead of squeezing them. You'll feel hugged and not suffocated. Plus, they are the only shapewear that won't ever roll down no matter how much you groove on the dance floor. I love wearing their shapewear just under a skirt in the summer or a dress, just to protect my skin from rubbing, and it doesn't roll down. It's super comfy, and I can dance all night or, just walk comfortably.
And it does your butt real good.
It does my butt miracles. It's like a bra for my booty. Honey Love Shapewear features lingerie-inspired design details that you'll want to show off and is made with breathable fabric that keeps you nice and cool, which is perfect for the summer heat. For a limited time, you can get Honey Love on sale. Get 20% off your entire order with our exclusive link, honeylove.com/wine. Show your support and check them out at honeylove.com/wine and tell us more, Lucy.
Yeah, Honey Love has so many products I've tried. I gotta say, like most of them, they're really great. I'm a big fan of the Superpower Short. So this smooths shapes and lifts, and it gives you a flawless silhouette under any outfit, or just like keeping your legs from chafing.
Yep.
So this Superpower Short is my go-to for just an effortless summer-ready look, no matter what I'm doing. It has targeted compression technology that distinguishes between areas that maybe you want a little more support and areas you need like less compression. It's comfortable shapewear.
Yeah.
Their signature X targets and sculpts your midsection without squeezing your natural curves. It is designed to work with your body, not against it. Yes, please. I've been using Honey Love since before they were a sponsor.
Me too.
I just feel really not only confident, but just comfortable in it. And you're not going to have to worry about it rolling down, which again, unheard of in shapewear, thanks to their flexible boning that is hidden in the side seams. It's like sexy. So don't shy away from the shapewear. It is shockingly comfortable. You're going to be really glad you gave it a try.
Treat yourself to the best bras and shapewear on the market and save 20% off at honeylove.com/wine. Use our exclusive link to get 20% off, honeylove.com/wine. And after you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Say yes to every adventure with Honey Love. All right, Lucy.
Yes.
What is our background, maybe psych, maybe a little case for Rochester Crimes?
I don't have any psych, but
all right.
My case is bonkers. So before we get to that, here's some information about beautiful Rochester, New York.
Gorgeous.
According to my lover, Britannica, Britt,
your girl Britt.
My girl Britt, Rochester is an industrial city in northwestern New York. The city has several nicknames, including Flower City, Smug Town, Kodak City, and the Lost Borough. The nicknames Flower City, FLOUR, and also FLOWER, they both apply.
Okay.
So that phonetically identical nickname arose in the early to mid 1800s when the town boasted a thriving mill industry and also a profitable seed trade. produced a lot of flour, and produced a lot of flowers. Industrialists such as George Eastman, Kodak guy, John Jacob Bausch, and Henry Lohm, Bausch and Lohm, developed photographic, optical, and precision equipment during the 1890s. So photocopy machines and other products such as auto parts, machine tools, electrical equipment, and processed food now make up the economy today. The city was home to two gals. You may have heard of them, Margaret and Kate Fox, the Fox sisters.
Oh, wait, are these the psychic ladies?
Yeah.
Like illusionists or whatever? Spiritualists?
Well, they were two sisters who, spiritualists, who would come to be known to give the spiritualist movement its momentum in Rochester and Western New York. They claim to have the ability to communicate with departed spirits through a code of knocks and raps heard through the walls.
Now, when you say raps, we don't mean Snoop Dogg. We mean like upon the door there was a rapping on my chamber door or whatever the fuck.
Exactly.
Got it.
Of course, they turned out to be bullshit. I think one of them was just knocking like under the bed or something. It's like, did you not test them?
I mean, people did. Wasn't Houdini one of the people who exposed them for being frauds?
Yeah, it had something to do with Houdini. I don't remember. We've talked about him before. For some reason, I really dislike them. But
because they preyed on vulnerable people wanting to connect with their lost loved ones and stole a bunch of people's money.
That sounds about right, yeah.
They're shitty. And fascinating.
And creepy. An obelisk in Rochester. I have an obelisk right here.
Oh, I love an obelisk.
Obelisk.
That's a beaut.
I don't know what she is. Calcite, maybe? Anyway, an obelisk in Rochester commemorates the Plymouth Spiritualist Church and the birth of the American Spiritualist movement on the street where the Fox sisters once lived. Rochester is also home to Susan B. Anthony. Ever heard of her?
I have.
In 1872, local authorities arrested her for attempting to vote illegally.
Ooh.
Lots of illegal voting. It's always been a huge issue.
Always. That was sarcasm, guys.
Yeah. Prompting the trial where she delivered one of the most influential women's suffrage speeches of all time. Ultimately, she was charged $100, which she never paid.
Good for her.
Her home that she lived in for 40 years is now a National Historic Landmark. Please bear with me. I have like 2-3 sentences about sports. Here we go.
Oh, God. I'm going to check out. Hope that's cool.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll talk to you in a minute. The Rochester Red Wings are a minor league baseball team of the International League and a AAA affiliate of the Washington Nationals. Blech. They are North America's oldest continuously operating sports franchise below the major league level.
The world's largest continuous ball of twine made by one man. If we need all of these...
That's our claim to fame.
Hey, that's Darwin, Minnesota, baby.
That's Darwin.
That's Darwin. If you need that many qualifiers for your claim to fame, I don't know how to break it to you, boss. So I actually went to the twine ball.
Your fame is pretty niche.
Yeah, I dragged Robbie, Aaron, and Mitch to the twine ball last weekend, and it was so interesting to go and read it and like read about what this man had made. He also was like a master carver, and he was obsessed with making these pliers out of wood, like functioning pliers out of wood, and one of the ones he made was like 7 feet tall. And we're standing there reading this. At least 45% of us are on the autism spectrum at this gathering of 4 people, and I'm
45%.
45% of the 4 of us are on the autism spectrum, and I'm like, this is so funny to read with so much more understanding of like my own brain and where I sit on the autism spectrum, and how we love to make fun of boomers being like, we didn't have that back in my day, and yet here's this old man who spent his life collecting and tying together and creating a giant ball of twine and making like hundreds of pairs of hand-carved wooden functioning pliers. And I'm like, yeah, no. Y'all definitely didn't have autism back then. Sure, Jan. Okay.
Do you know what his base starter ball was in the very middle of that ball of twine?
It doesn't say. I really think it started with twine that he just wrapped and wrapped and wrapped and wrapped around itself. I don't think that there is a core.
And there are no parts that are tied together. It's just one huge length of twine.
I mean, he would have had to have like weaved the twine into a singular strand with pieces. And now it's like pretty frayed. So it does have pieces that are like falling apart. Mm-hmm. But he created, like he collected and weaved together the twine into a continuous string that now sits in a glass gazebo. It's like as big as a house. It's huge. A tiny house. It's like as big as a shed.
But a shed is
a
house for tools. Yep. Yeah. Could a 7-foot wooden pliers fit in a shed?
Depending on the size of the shed, yeah, it absolutely could.
Okay. Wow.
But anyway, sports.
Okay. It gets more interesting right now, I promise.
Okay.
This storied club also has the honor of losing the longest professional baseball game ever played.
What? How fucking long was it? Like days?
Uh-huh. On April 18th, 1981, the Wings took the field against Pawtucket's Red Sox in northern Rhode Island. The game was 33 innings long and took 2 days to finish.
No.
At what point do you just call it?
It's a tie. We're done.
Everyone loses when they have to watch baseball for 2 days.
We don't care. This isn't important to me. I'm sure it was important to them.
Yeah. They have that distinction of losing the longest baseball. Well, they all lost that day.
Yeah. No, there were no winners in that situation, but that very much tracks for Rochester.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of things that track for Rochester, here are just a handful of fun facts. The city is known for its garbage plate.
Oh, we'll get to the garbage plates.
Which consists of a plate piled high with various combinations of meats, chili, baked beans, macaroni salad, fried potatoes, sauces, and more.
It's like a poutine meets a barbecue platter all in one, if you're getting the real thing, styrofoam container.
So it's like a big, what are those at KFC?
Like
a party bowl or whatever they're called.
Yeah. But they are good. And you can like switch up. You can do macaroni salad. You can do slaw. You can do both. They're fucking good.
Just sounds like someone got really, really high and raided their own fridge after like a backyard party.
Basically.
Yeah, I'm down.
I'm living for it. They're so delicious.
Speaking of bring your Imodium.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. They'll fuck you up.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Kodak, the company that was started by George Eastman in 1892, was one of Rochester's most famous corporate residents. So is. Mm-hmm. Prior to 2005, it was also the city's biggest employer. But then digital really ransacked that industry.
Sure did.
Joe Simon, the co-creator of Captain America, grew up in Rochester.
Oh, that's fun. I feel like their largest employer now might be RIT.
What is RIT?
Rochester Institute of Technology. It's actually like a very prestigious tech school. Yeah, it's legit. I don't know if that's true, but I think that's what it was when I was living there, but that was in like 2007. So God only knows.
Okay. Yeah, I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Established in 1895, the Rochester Marshmallow Company was the first American business to mass produce the sweet treat that is marshmallow.
Chester gave us the mallow. I love that.
There are also a bunch of colorful horse statues on display around the town, and this was
weird.
I pictured it like the blue horse at the Denver airport with the red eyes.
No, I would say it's more
Lucifer.
akin to like the Peanuts characters that are around Minneapolis and St. Paul. Mostly around St. Paul.
Are they rearing up? Do they look like Lucifer?
Yeah, some of them are jaunty, but they're like, they're different colors. I think different artists get to like commission some of these pieces, but they're strange.
It was an effort in 2001 to raise money for local charities where artists painted over 100 life-size Bronco sculptures. Mm-hmm. I remember the Peanuts thing.
Yeah. They're mostly in St. Paul. I don't know if there are any in Minneapolis, actually, now that I think about it.
They annoyed me.
They're weird.
That
Like,
just
we
didn't-
get it.
we get
What's
it.
his face lived there or whatever, but like, can we move on? Wah, 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 wah.
Also, the NBA's Sacramento Kings originally played in Western New York as the Rochester Royals. And I kept that in there because what the
Two
fuck are
people
you
will care
talking
about
about?
that. Well, the LA Lakers used to be the Minneapolis Lakers, the Minnesota Lakers.
But if you have a completely different name in a completely different city at two totally different time periods, are you not basically two different teams?
They must have sold the franchise and then it just got like a rebrand.
Then
So it was
who
originally
cares?
I know. But listen, Rochester has very little to cling to, so we got to let them have this.
I noticed that.
Yep.
And you probably noticed that when I read you the interesting facts about Rochester.
Honey,
That
we
included
all noticed.
marshmallows, horse
Yep.
statues,
And a losing baseball team.
two different sport facts. You know I don't care about that. Okay.
I know you don't, but I'm
Anyway.
really proud of you.
That's Rochester. And now for my case.
Okay.
Big trigger warning. There is violence towards children in my case,
Oh, great.
but I don't go into much detail.
Okay.
Arthur Shawcross was born on June 6th, 1945. He was a Gemini in the United States Naval Hospital in Kittery, Maine. Adorable, Kittery.
Yeah, that is cute.
He was the first of 4 children born to Arthur Roy Shawcross, father, and Bessie Yarakis Shawcross, mother.
Okay.
Arthur Jr. was born prematurely and only weighed 5 pounds.
Oh, Bubby.
He was also born with XYY syndrome, also known as Jacob's syndrome. So obviously there is an extra Y chromosome there.
Mm-hmm.
This is a rare chromosomal disorder that affects males because XYY.
Yep.
So they have an extra Y chromosome in most or all of their cells, and males with this disorder might be taller than other males. They might also have problems with spoken language, coordination problems, weaker muscles, and like antisocial behavioral problems. And I'm sure that's just arising from statistics about people who are born with this syndrome. But some of these things do apply to Arthur.
Okay.
When he was 2 weeks old, his family moved to Watertown, which is a small town near Lake Ontario in upstate New York. It's not far from Rochester. They moved there so his father could complete his military service. As a child, Arthur showed signs of abnormal behavior. So,
Tag yourself.
you know, the dark triad.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
So have that in mind. He was a chronic bedwetter. He continued to talk like a baby until he was like 6 years old. He ran away from home, and he seemed to hate children younger than himself. His classmates constantly teased him and called him Oddie, Oddie,
Yeah, like he's odd.
weirdo, Oddie, which would send him into a rage, and he became known in his class as like the bully. Arthur later said that he was obsessed with masturbation as a kid.
I mean,
Yeah.
once you find it, it's hard to put it down for a little while. Some kids just find it early.
Can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Yeah, you really can't.
Well, this fascination with the masturbation also came with accusing people, including his aunt Tina. Another source said his mother Bessie were to blame for his sexual habits because they forced him to perform oral sex on them.
So he accused them of that.
And he said that's why I was masturbating so much, because I was exposed to sexual activity by my aunt and my mother or my mother at a young age.
I want to always believe victims first. However, given where this story is going, has that been confirmed that he was sexually abused, or is this are we operating under the assumption that that's true? Because that could also very easily contribute to his violent behavior later in life. If he was abused as a child, then yeah.
Given what things he ends up lying about later on,
There's kind of no way to
I don't
know.
think that it was that is true.
Okay.
Of course, it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
This was also in the 50s.
Yep,
so I don't think we could really know for sure.
Corroborative evidence is not exactly at the forefront here on these accusations.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he claimed that this happened in 3rd grade.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like 8 years old. Around the same time, his grades were slipping and his mother discovered that Arthur Sr. had an entire fucking secret family in Australia.
In Australia?
Because he's in the military. So he traveled a lot.
Oh, that's right.
So
Holy
he had a
shit.
wife and a child in Australia.
That's wild.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we kind of joke about secret families, but like...
Oh, I mean, it's fucking devastating when it does happen.
It's just so extreme.
It's so extreme. And it's like, how do you... I mean, back in the day when there was no social media, no cell phones, you know, you can't keep tabs on people the way you can now. It was so much easier to do. I'm impressed with people who do it fucking today. How do you get away with that shit? I have my husband's location services on, and he has mine.
Mm-hmm. I mean, in some ways... Yeah, it would have been a lot easier to do it back then. I think that it would be a lot more likely that a person were obligated into, you know, having that be the situation. Like if he was abroad, if he was in Australia, he met a woman, pregnant. He got her pregnant.
They got married because it's what he's expected to do, but he actually is based out of the U.S. and she stays there, then yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's sad. Mm-hmm. What if you accidentally called your kids by the wrong name? Growing up in our house, both my parents called me Ash Amanda. So that would definitely happen in our house. Like my parents could never have a secret family.
My mom calls me Susan all the time. That's her sister's name.
There you go.
So it's not even my sibling's name. It's like her own sister.
Yep. They'd never get away with it. They'd never get away with it.
No. With their brains.
No.
So this secret family obviously greatly impacted the family dynamics. Many relatives claimed that Bessie changed after this, often raging at Arthur Sr.,
Can you blame her?
No. Who became more quiet and withdrawn as a result. Mm-hmm. And Arthur Jr. often went to his grandma's house to avoid being at home under those circumstances. So
yeah, he doesn't want to hear his parents fight.
Mm-hmm. The house was not calm, quiet, functional. Around age 11, Arthur was masturbating a lot. Mm-hmm. And when he was caught by his mom, she apparently threatened him, and Arthur claimed that she had sodomized him with a broom as punishment.
Oof.
So I'm not going to jump in and say whether things did or did not happen. But like I said, he greatly exaggerated things that we know about later down the road. As the years passed, he became increasingly violent and was known for his explosive temper. By his mid-teens, he was still wetting his bed and had almost completely withdrawn into his own little world. Mm-hmm. He was very antisocial. During this time, Arthur also claimed to have been engaging in oral sex with multiple people, including family members and his own sister, and also claimed to be engaging in bestiality.
Oh, dear.
Around the age of 14, he claimed to have been picked up by a man in a red convertible while walking home from school. Supposedly, this man held him by the throat while performing oral sex on him. And when Arthur didn't reach orgasm, the man raped him and dropped him off near his house. Oh, From there, Arthur claimed that he could never reach orgasm without inflicting pain on himself.
Okay. What a case.
Yeah. By age 17, Arthur was still in the 9th grade at age 17 and eventually dropped out completely in 1960. Mm-hmm. 3 years later, in 1963, he was arrested for the first time for burglarizing a Sears. He was sentenced to 18 months probation because he was a youthful offender. Mm-hmm. In September 1964, he married a local girl named Sarah Chatterton. Mm-hmm. In November of 65, so basically a year later, he was arrested again for second-degree burglary and sentenced to 6 months of additional probation. And the second arrest was the last straw for his marriage. They'd only been married for like a year and a couple months. And in 1967, he divorced Sarah and gave up the rights to their 18-month-old son, whom he never saw again.
Wow.
So I don't know if the secret family thing affected him enough to be like, okay,
I'm out.
Take my son. Bye. I do not need to see him ever again. In April of 1967, he was drafted into the Army. He served one tour of duty in Vietnam and later bragged about, quote, beheading mamasans and nailing their heads to trees as a warning to the Viet Cong. He also claimed to cannibalize 2 young girls. But in reality, he never served a combat position.
So he couldn't have done that.
He was never in a position where he could have or would have done, could have done those things.
Yeah, these were stories he made up.
I think that all of these really outlandish things are just weird stories he made up to either justify his own behavior, his own thoughts and desires, and also just like weird sociopathic bragging. I don't know. I don't think these things are true, but they're horrifically violent, nevertheless. So after the war, Arthur was stationed in Lawton, Oklahoma, where he married a second time to a woman named Linda Neary. Their marriage was also tainted by violence. She witnessed him beginning to start fires.
Uh-oh.
Along with a lot of other strange behaviors. Shortly after his discharge from the Army, the couple moved to Clayton, New York. And somewhere around this time, an Army psychiatrist told Linda that Arthur was getting off on starting these fires. And so soon she came to her senses and divorced him. So the end of his second marriage.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. In 1969, after his return to civilian life, Shawcross Arthur was arrested for arson and was sentenced to 5 years in Attica prison. He only served 22 months, so less than 2 years, because apparently he got in good with the prison officials because he, quote unquote, rescued a prison guard during a riot.
Okay.
So he was granted early release.
He was a bootlicker, so they let him out.
Basically. I mean, we'll come back to that. In 1972, upon his release from prison, he moved back home to Watertown, where he met and married lucky lady number 3, Penny Sherbino. So they're back in Watertown. He's working for the Public Works Department, and he was known to spend his free time fishing in the nearby creeks and rivers. As such, he came to know many of the local kids and shared his fishing spots with them.
No.
On May 7th, 1972, Arthur lured 10-year-old Jack Owen Blake into the woods where he strangled him to death. He buried him in a swampland off of Route 81, just north of Watertown. And Arthur was questioned about the killing, but he was not high on their suspect list, despite Jack's mother being concerned that he was Jack's killer.
Yeah.
They also at that point hadn't found his body yet. On September 2nd, 1972, so this is just 5 months later, Arthur raped and killed an 8-year-old girl named Karen Ann Hill. Karen wasn't even from Watertown and had only been there that day because her mother was visiting a friend for Labor Day weekend.
Oh, God.
Someone reported seeing Arthur and Karen on the day she was murdered and tipped off the cops. And so the police questioned him again in connection with this murder of a child. He confessed to the killings, and that's when he told police officers where to find Jack's body. The DA, William McClusey, cut a deal with Arthur. If Arthur pled guilty to manslaughter in Karen's case, then they would close Jake's case without a conviction. Sorry, Jack's case.
What the fuck? So he gets to plead to a very minimal charge in the rape and murder of this young girl, and basically have the other murder just forgotten.
Well, so that's what one source said. And another source said that he pled guilty to first-degree manslaughter in both cases. But either way, he was only sentenced to 25 years, which is kind of the point here.
Yeah.
It was odd to me that I couldn't find solid information on what he was actually charged with and what his plea deal was, but he was sentenced to 25 years. So in prison, Arthur was diagnosed by a psychiatrist as a psychosexual maniac. Overall, though, he was considered a model prisoner, the bootlicker, by the relatively inexperienced prison staff and social workers who eventually proclaimed him as, quote, no longer dangerous.
Oh, okay.
So this fucking guy was released on parole after just 14 and a half years.
Wow.
So he's released.
He murdered 2 children.
And raped one of them.
Yep.
At least one of them. Yep, 14 and a half years did the trick. He was released in April 1987. His family in Watertown, did not want him to move back. And his former neighbors were protesting his moving back. And there was no way that he would be hired by anyone in town. So he didn't go back to Watertown. His parole officer settled him in Binghamton, New York. However, shortly after moving there, the locals discovered his past and he was driven out of town. And actually, he was driven out of town of 3 different towns.
Wow.
So eventually, he settled in an extended stay hotel in beautiful Rochester with his prison pen pal, a woman named Rosemary Wally.
Rosemary, no.
No, Rosemary. And this time, he was able to stay because his parole officer failed to notify local authorities of his past. So I'm guessing that's why nobody else in town found out about him and they weren't also driven out of Rochester.
Yeah.
After a few months in the hotel, they found a house to move into. So they move into some house in Rochester. And also during this time, he was simultaneously keeping a mistress, a woman named Clara Neal. Because this man just cannot.
He can't sit still.
Can't sit still.
He's a busy beaver.
Between 1988 and 1989, Arthur murdered another 11 women, plus a 12th one suspected, but they couldn't prove it.
Oh, my God.
Most of them were sex workers in the Rochester area.
Ugh.
The victims were usually strangled and battered to death and often mutilated as well. The things that he said about them, and I didn't get concrete information about the mutilations, but I think he was cutting out parts of their genital regions.
Oh, God.
And and possibly eating it because he had the cannibalism fantasies too.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Most of these women were found near the Genesee River, earning him the nickname the Genesee River Killer.
There it is.
Yeah. The post-mortem injury inflicted on one of the victims' bodies indicated to police that the killer was comfortable around corpses and would probably return to the crime scene after the fact to relive the attack.
Ugh.
And this whole investigation has been criticized after the fact, too, because even though these women were found really close to each other,
Yep.
the cops were not putting together that it could have been the same person because they were really, really focused on the killer's MO.
And also, if the majority of these women were sex workers, they're just not going to get the prioritization and the humanization that other in these cases.
Yeah.
So connecting them, it's like, wow, sex workers get murdered every day. That doesn't mean that these are connected.
Mm-hmm. And I think his MO varied just enough that they were like, they were thrown off when they really shouldn't have been. So this particular case is kind of studied after the fact in an academic way. So Arthur became a murder suspect in these murders on January 3rd, 1990, after 3 state troopers in a helicopter saw him in the car belonging to his mistress, Clara, parked on a small country bridge on Route 31. So it's the middle of winter. This stream is frozen under him, under the bridge.
What are you doing here, bitch?
So they could see under the bridge on the ice of Salmon Creek the body of a woman named June Cicero, a 34-year-old sex worker. And they could see in the car Arthur was alone. And one source said he was eating a salad. And another source said that he was masturbating.
Why not both?
Why not both? Also, the timeline was a little bit confusing among these sources. It's possible that he dumped her body there, left for a day or two, went back to where her body was, and that's when he was masturbating over it.
Ugh.
After the January 3rd sighting, Arthur was followed by patrol cars to Clara's work and questioned briefly. Around 7:30 the next morning, another body was found about 2 miles from the Salmon Creek Bridge. And after this discovery, he was questioned again and charged after making a statement. So here are the names of the women that he killed, plus one that's highly suspected, just because I don't want to say it was 11 sex workers and just leave it at that.
Right.
They also weren't all sex workers, not that it matters.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Dotsie Blackburn, who was 27, Anna Marie Steffen, age 28, Dorothy Keeler, age 59, Patty Ives, age 25, June Stott, age 30, Marie Welch, age 22, Franny Brown, age 22, Kimberly Logan, age 30, Liz Gibson, age 29, Darlene Trippy, age 32, June Cicero, age 33, and Felicia Stevens, age 20.
Wow.
I think I said that June Cicero was 34 somewhere else. She was either 33 or 34. I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm.
He was convicted of killing 10 women from Monroe County.
Mm-hmm.
So Gibson was killed in neighboring Wayne County. So hers was a separate case.
Yep.
And was sentenced to a minimum of 250 years in prison.
Fucking finally.
Yeah. So the judge sentenced Arthur to the maximum of 25 to life on each of 11 convictions for second-degree murder. He was held at the Sullivan Correctional Facility in New York until November 10th, 2008, when he complained of leg pain, was transferred to the hospital, and died later that day of cardiac arrest.
Bye.
Too good of a death for you.
Yep.
So that's Arthur Shaw Cross, the Genesee River Killer.
Holy shit.
He liked to kill near rivers.
Yeah.
So if your kid is wetting the bed and masturbating a lot and starting fires, we would recommend
some childhood therapy.
Some therapy.
Mm-hmm. Let's get ahead of it.
Yep.
Well done.
Best to nip it in the bud.
Yeah. I have some violence in my case, but not like that.
Okay, well, that's okay with me.
Yep. Should we take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsors?
Yeah. Maybe cry a minute. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we'll be right back. Here's a little peek behind the curtain. Amanda and I talk regularly about our hair and our hair care products.
Yep.
And one that we are genuinely really excited to be using is Lola V.
Yeah.
This is an award-winning hair care line founded by the fabulous Jennifer Aniston, who has hair so iconic it needs no introduction. So our pal Jen recognized this age-old struggle that we all face, which is choosing between hair products that work and ones that are actually good for us, and also ones that smell really good.
Yeah.
Mixed them all together, used her Jennifer Aniston magic, and out came Lola V. We all put our hair through the ringer with like coloring, heat styling, stress, also aging. Like the list goes, the environment, pollution, a baby yanking on it.
Ugh,
and that's
puking on it.
Well, I scraped vomit out of my hair this morning, but another peek behind the curtain. And that's why it's crucial to have products that not only repair the look of your damaged hair, but also shields your locks from future harm. And that's what Lola V does. It's clean, plant-powered products for every hair type and texture. And again, it smells amazing. And here's a little treat for you, our awesome listeners. For a limited time, you get an exclusive 15% off your entire order at lolav.com. Just use promo code GALS at checkout. And if you're taking hair care advice, why listen to anyone besides the woman who gave us the Rachel?
Seriously, I love it. I'm a big fan of, I've talked about this, it's like the Shining detangling spray.
You love that.
I love that. I love the leave-in conditioner. You know, my hair is very fine, but I like it to be silky smooth, shiny, and just healthy looking. That is what I like. And I have noticed huge improvements since I started using Lola V for real. Let's talk about these ingredients because that's really where it starts. Lola V is all about naturally derived plant-based goodness. No silicones, sulfates, parabens, or gluten. And of course, it's cruelty-free and vegan. The in-shower trio of restorative shampoo and conditioner plus intensive repair treatment turn your shower experience into a spa-like retreat while working to banish breakage. I seriously just luxuriate. I hung eucalyptus in my shower, dried eucalyptus, and have been using Lolavie in the shower, and I'm like transported. It's incredible. Post-shower, you grab that glossing detangler, the perfecting leave-in, and if you're still like a little dry and you just want to take care of your ends, use that lightweight hair oil.
That is my favorite.
Yeah, some days are more humid than others, and I can get a little bit of frizz, and I just use a tiny drop rubbed into my hands of that lightweight hair oil and then just like run my hair through my fingers through my hair. Takes care of everything. This is a triple threat for your styling routine. These multifunctional formulas work beautifully together to prime, prep, and finish for silkier, shinier, Jennifer Aniston-approved hair.
Yes, so unlock Jennifer Aniston-approved hair at lolav.com. As our loyal listeners, you'll get an exclusive 15% off your entire order when you use code GALS at checkout. That's 15% off your order at LOLAVIE.com with promo code GALS. Please note you can only use one promo code per order and discounts can't be combined. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Your hair will thank you.
So, as made evident by my enthusiastic contributions earlier in this episode, I was pretty pumped when this episode got scheduled because, as you know, I lived in Rochester, New York from about 2005 to 2007. And while there, I took classes at Monroe Community College. I was in Monroe County with the granddaughter of a victim and kind of a perpetrator in my case.
Oh.
A man named Jimmy the Hammer Massaro. We'll get to him.
Okay.
That is only one of my claims to Rochester fame, alongside the fact that I got 86 from Vinyl Nightclub for fighting with the bouncer and then demanding a hot dog. Survived 2 a.m. visits to the infamous street meat food truck, which I am pretty sure got shut down. Flirted with the bikers at Dinosaur Barbecue, and my astonishing ability to take down an entire garbage plate at 18 years old before I suffered from chronic reflux.
That's why you're now still suffering from chronic reflux.
Probably, but like I wasn't in Rochester for long, but I fucking did it when I was there.
You sent it.
I sent it, I laid it down, I flipped it, and I reversed it.
And you lived in a gorgeous home.
Yeah, it was beautiful. My days in the city that always sleeps were few, but they were foundational. Rochester, though sleepy and unassuming in the aftermath of Kodak's fall from grace, the one industry that drew so many to live and work in the community that faced massive layoffs with the coming of the digital age, it was once a hub for mob activity, which if you've ever spent 5 minutes talking to someone from the Chester should not be surprising, but...
What's the Chester?
Rochester, the Chester.
Oh, okay.
But let's just break down that history, shall we? So first we're going to start with the Rochester crime family, aka La Cosa Nostra. This was a subsection of the Italian-American mob based in Rochester, New York, made up mostly of Italian immigrants. Their core operating years were between the 1950s and 1993, which the reign kind of ended with the death of boss Samuel Red Risotti, and he was named Red as a redhead as a child.
Oh, I thought it's because he killed a lot of people.
Nope. The names are way cuter in origin most of the time than like they're more precious in origin than their behavior would indicate, which is always wild to me with the mafia names, but whatever.
Okay.
So La Cosa Nostra became an independent family following an internal power struggle in nearby Buffalo, New York that had caused a split around the 1950s. So there had been one kind of greater upstate New York area mob family that had leadership in Buffalo, but they had like people in Rochester, and then Rochester broke off. It was like, no, we're doing our own thing now.
Okay.
Frank Valenti was Rochester's first official godfather, nicknamed the Sphinx due to his stone-cold, emotionless facial expressions when interrogated by police.
God.
La Cosa Nostra ran the organized crime in Rochester, including gambling, some, by their terminology, prostitution, and extortion, a lot of extortion. So in the Frank the Sphinx Valenti era, he was a flashy leader. He was a super flashy individual He was always dressed to the nines in the most expensive suits. He wore gold watches, slicked back hair, sloppy steaks. He used to be a real piece of shit.
So this is like in the 60s?
Yes.
Earlier? Okay.
Yep. Valenti would bribe law enforcement and assassinate problems as they arose. When a series of police raids took down many of his gambling operations, he would order the murder of Dominic Aloco, whom he suspected was acting as an informant. So he was just ruthless. He was like, I think this guy's snitching. He's fucking out.
Okay.
Jury's still out on whether or not that guy even was an informant. They just took him out.
Better safe than sorry.
Truly. As gambling was the main form of income, they wanted to prevent it from being shut down. Unlike other mob factions, Valenti did not want the mob to edge into the sex work and prostitution business because, quote, he always believed you shouldn't make a living off of a woman.
What a gentleman.
Yep. So to preserve his morally superior line of income and prevent further interference with the gambling ring, he held a meeting with members of the Vice Control Unit of the Rochester Police Bureau. A later investigation concluded this meeting was, quote, certainly not for any legitimate law enforcement purpose or for the carrying out of any lawful and proper police function, end quote, but rather to hand out bribes so the cops would look the other way. He was suspected of the murder of Johnny Broadway Cavagroti, a Russo loyalist, and Russo was a Buffalo, New York mob leader whose weak leadership allowed for like the splintering off / creation of the Rochester branch.
Okay.
Who failed to fall in line when Valenti took control in the Chester.
Mm.
In 1968, with Buffalo's aging leadership in jail, Valenti officially declared Rochester as an independent family that would no longer answer to Buffalo. He made Samuel Red Rosati as his underboss, made veteran mobster Rene Picaretto as his official advisor, and appointed others, including Salvatore Sammy D. Gingello, Dominic Celestino, Thomas Didio, Angelo Vaccaro, and Dominic Chirico, who oversaw day-to-day operations on the streets.
So, question.
Yes.
How far away is Buffalo from Rochester?
Like an hour-ish.
Oh, okay.
It's not that far.
How long would it take you to walk?
Oh my God. Let's look. Okay, so by car, it's an hour and 14 minutes. It would take you 1 day to walk.
Okay.
It would take you 1 hour and 15 minutes to hitchhike or lift. 8 hours to bike.
It would take you 1 more minute to
Yep.
hitchhike or get a lift than it would to just drive.
Mm-hmm.
I like how they've calculated that.
Yep.
Okay, so they're pretty close.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can see why chains might be rattled with the splintering.
Yep. Buffalo is really close to Niagara Falls, too.
I'd like to go there.
It's really fun. We should totally go there. We should do a Niagara Falls show.
What is it
But the New York side, the trashy side.
versus...
The Canadian side, which is beautiful.
Oh, okay.
It's also a little trashy because it's like a tourist destination, but the views on the Canadian side are much more beautiful than the New York side. You get like the full Horseshoe Falls.
I imagine it like the Wisconsin Dells.
They have casinos and there's a Madame Tussauds, and at least there was when I was going up there to get drunk in Canada when I was like 18.
Okay.
But yeah.
So yeah, like Wisconsin Dells.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So in 1970, Salvatore Gingello collected over $100,000 for a gambling junket, but the money vanished. Gingello and Russotti blamed a loan shark named Billy Lupo, and then Billy's body was found slumped over the wheel of his car, fully dead on a dead-end street.
Oh, double dead.
As it turned out, Lupo was under federal investigation for loan sharking, so his death turned the feds' attention to the Rochester crime family. To draw attention away, Valenti ordered a series of bombings at various locations throughout the city, using like white supremacy as his roadmap because he targeted black churches and Jewish synagogues, as well as government buildings and even the home of a union official and the home of a federal judge.
That's pretty ballsy.
Yeah, very ballsy. And that sort of white supremacist playbook is seen as kind of a cover because he didn't want people to know that it was him.
So he was kind of trying to frame the Buffalo guys.
Yeah, but also just keep the eyes of investigators into these bombings off of the mob in general.
Oh, okay.
So at the time, police suspected anti-Vietnam protesters and other radical groups, so their investigation shifted away from the Rochester family entirely.
Okay.
This belief was strengthened by the fact that these bombings happened to coincide with several other bombings throughout the country and may have been a tactic on Valenti's part to avoid capture. Fortunately, no one died in these bombings. There was only one person who was injured. He really wasn't trying to maim anybody. He was trying to send a message.
Was this the Weathermen thing? The other bombings around the country?
I think so. I mean, there was so much going on in the 70s. Bombings were crazy. People were freaking out about Vietnam. You know, protest was on the rise. Like, a lot of political and social shift was happening at that time. And this bombing seemed to have become kind of a popular way of, like, sending a message and getting in the press. And I think that he chose this as an avenue because it was happening so much around the country and could be chalked up to other movements. And yet the Buffalo faction, like, knew that he was trying to fuck with them, but they're also not going to turn him in because then they're going to get investigated themselves. So he's, like, trying to send a message that, like, no, fuck you, I'm in charge. The Buffalo faction is over. But he's doing it in this grandiose way that investigators wouldn't necessarily be able to pick up on, but that, like, other members of the Buffalo crime family would definitely know was for them.
Okay.
To show as a show of force, basically. Valenti's plan had succeeded and also let his enemies know how absolutely ruthless he was. His own Rochester family members, however, were not as keen on the bombings. In 1972, he was approached by both underboss Russotti and consigliere Picaretto, asking him to step down, accusing him of skimming profits and keeping them for himself. His underlings demanded he return the money or abdicate power. However, Valenti refused. Angry at the request, he wanted to order a hit on Gingillo, Russotti, and Picaretto. However, as protected members of the mafia, he had to get permission from the other families for this hit, and he was refused permission. So this makes the scene in the office where Kevin assembles the 5 families of, like, the office park to demand their parking spots back so much funnier now that I have this context. Totally. Like, I knew that was a mob reference, but I didn't make this connection. If you wanted, like, if higher-ups wanted to put hits out on other higher-ups, they had to have the support of other, like,
the approval.
Collegiate families.
I think it had to be unanimous, too.
Probably. So that was interesting. But these 3 targets had heard of the plot against them and wanted revenge against Valenti. They were also refused permission to hit Valenti, but still wanted blood. So the trio murdered a man named Dominic Chirico, who we talked about. He was a loyal Valenti capo. He was killed by a shotgun blast on June 5th, 1972 in Rains Park in the city's Maplewood neighborhood, outside of the home of his own girlfriend. So he's probably leaving the house. They had been watching him, popped him right there. Chirico's slaying would prove to be devastating to Valenti because he was one of the most loyal captains in the family, serving as both a personal bodyguard and member of Valenti's, quote, special crew. So he was like a right-hand man.
Okay.
With his death, tensions inside the Valenti crime family were running high. Following the murder of Chirico, a meeting took place between the top members of the mafia shortly before midnight on June 5th, 1972, where Frank Valenti agreed to retire to Arizona, where he had already been purchasing property. So basically in this meeting, it was like, dude, you're going to get murdered.
Yeah.
People want you to step down. It's time. And he's like, yeah, all right, okay, I'll go. But before he could slink away, on December 15th, 1972, Valenti was convicted in an extortion case. Samuel Red Russotti became the new boss of the Rochester crime family, with Sammy Gingillo becoming his underboss and Rene Picaretto retaining his position as family advisor. So all 3 of these people that Valenti had wanted to kill were now in charge of the Rochester crime family. And now Valenti's in jail.
Okay.
And because Valenti had wanted these guys dead, and now they're in charge, they ran any loyalists to Valenti out of the city. So it's like, we're getting rid of anybody who would have allegiance to him because he wanted to fucking kill us, and now he's in jail.
Yeah.
And you're
where
under
he still
new leadership.
Could kill you from.
He probably could, but I think it was when this, like, changing of the guard happens, there are a handful of people who might still be loyal to the one who's behind bars, but most people do fall in line under the new family because they don't want to fucking die. So Valenti didn't have enough pull anymore at this point to really make anything happen. It was, his time was over.
We're just in retribution mode at this point.
Kinda.
Get rid of the loyalists.
Yep.
We're starting fresh.
So Valenti's out, Risotti's in, and now we're in the Risotti era.
Okay.
Aside from the slight reorganization mentioned above, Red basically continued business as usual. Long practice tactics continued with gambling at the helm, although the new group was fond of bid rigging, bribery, and extortion, aiming for more government construction contacts than they previously held. So they're diversifying their portfolio. Unlike the swaggering, flashy persona of his predecessor Valenti, to the general public, Risotti, Red, portrayed a friendly and grandfatherly persona, often waving to police officers who were conducting surveillance on him and smiling for photographs taken by the media. This would prove to be the peak era of the Rochester crime family. It is estimated that roughly 45 men were made official members of the crew, and hundreds, perhaps thousands of associates assisted in procedures. And now when you say associates, like that means every cop who looks the other way and is paid off, every construction company that understands and willingly participates in these sort of fraudulent, extortionist government contracts. Like this encompassed a lot of different people and organizations and companies that were essentially associates of the mob because they were doing work under mob rule. Even if they weren't out there in the streets killing each other, they're part of it.
You're still facilitating the mob activity.
Yep. Yeah, because you're funneling money to them, essentially. Risotti's rule would begin bloody, however, when in November 1973, authorities discovered the body of Vincent Jimmy the Hammer Massaro in the trunk of his own car.
Ew. How'd he get in there?
Well, I'll tell you. Massaro was a foreman and construction equipment operator and suspected strong arm for the Rochester family mafia. So Vincent Massaro was an enforcer and a hitman who specialized in arson. Now, the arson specialization was not really for hits, like death hits. It was for insurance fraud.
Oh, well, yeah. Arson would be a bad tactic for like killing people.
Yes, it would. So they were used mainly for collecting insurance money to fund mob activity. A friend of the Hammer, a man named Angelo Monachino, would testify that the mob received nearly $500,000 in insurance payouts on 8 separate fires.
Ooh.
He based the mob's success on these incredible 3 things. 1, knowing how to set fires.
I was joking.
No. That's legit. 2, having a high-ranking fire official in on the take. And 3, the lucky break that the arson detection squad of Rochester, New York wasn't very good at detecting arson. So they made off with a lot of money doing this.
Those are my 3 pillars of success.
Yep, the 3 pillars of arson success. Know how to set a fire, have someone on your payroll that is basically the fire chief, and have a department that's not that good at their jobs. Done.
Freebie.
Enjoy your $500,000 in the 60s, which is like an unfathomable amount of money.
Times 8.
Yeah. The night of his murder, Massaro received a call from this close friend turned hit organizer, Angelo Monachino, luring him to the garage of a construction company in Brighton. The construction company was owned by Monachino, which is why they chose that location. Monachino would later testify that when ordered by Picaretto to help murder Jimmy, who was his friend, he asked Rene Picaretto, "Why me?" And Rene's response was, "If you don't like it, you can go with him. So basically do this or you're dead."
Ugh.
Yeah, it's sad. I probably would just die and not kill you, but like I can't 100% say what I would do if a mob boss was
same.
Kill Lucy or you're dead.
The probability of me killing you isn't 0.
It's not 0, but it is low.
It's low. I'd like to think it's
low,
low,
but it's a non-zero amount.
You're telling me there's a chance.
Yeah, I'm glad we're on the same page about this. Like, I love you, but I also like my life.
Yeah. Depends on how easily it would be to, like, flee. Like, if I could just leave.
Right.
And maybe someone would kill you eventually, but
yeah, I'm gonna die eventually.
Yeah.
So, honestly, I would be honored if you did it.
If I had to kill you, I would just take you to a nice field and shoot you in the back of the head.
Thank you. I'm never going to a field with you. Now I know. Just poison my mashed potatoes.
Oh, yeah.
I want to go set me up with a little dinner in bed, poison the shit out of it, put on some of my favorite shows, and just let me drift.
I would.
That's a hit right there. Tuck me in, put beans on my lap.
Oh, my God.
What a great way to go.
I'd get you with a bunch of sleeping pills and have you fall into a deep slumber and then
a deep, endless sleep.
Probably get a bunch of your insulin and jab you with it. And then you can just, go
Easy
to sleep
peasy.
with a full belly and a kitty on your lap.
I'm so glad you've thought this through so thoroughly.
It just came to me.
Yeah.
It's a moment of
It came to you so
inspiration.
easily. Anyway, that's not what Monashino did. Around 5:30 p.m.
How would you kill me?
How would I kill you?
I don't want to disturb you too greatly having to think about it.
I would lure you. First of all, I would do like what you do for your dog on their last day before being euthanized. I would
Take me to McDonald's.
I would take you to McDonald's. I would let you order anything you wanted. I would take you to an oddity shop and an antique mall, let you do all your little shopping. And then we would go back to somebody's house, and you always like to do your unboxing, even though I'm like with you when you buy all your stuff. I still want to see all of your trinkets.
Yep.
And I'd either quickly bludgeon you over the head and just put you out of your misery right in the middle of your unboxing. Or I, too, would choose the poison route, whip us up a nice little dinner, put on like an old Disney movie, and just let you fall asleep and die.
That's so sweet.
It's a good day.
It's a good day.
The reason I would shy away from bludgeoning is that I'm not convinced that I'm strong enough to make that a one hit and done, like painless experience. And I want it to be painless for you.
And I know myself, I would like hesitate and then it wouldn't hit you as hard.
You do have a lot of obelisks, though, that I could use if I did it at your house.
You could kill me with this. It's heavy.
Yeah, that's a big boy.
She's a big boy.
Right
that
to the
sounds
temple.
so nice. Well,
It's a lovely day.
whether you do that on the day you kill me or just like my next birthday that we're together, let's just make that a nice day.
Yeah, why don't we just carry out the ways we would kill each other without actually killing each other and treat each other to a really nice day instead? How about that?
Will you let me lick some peanut butter off your finger?
Oh my God.
Like
Callie got so many cookies and pup cups on her last day on Earth. She was so happy. Oh, and then she got
Pup
that like
cups.
little burst of energy where we took like a really nice walk, and I was like, "Is this a mistake?" And then it wasn't a mistake.
No, it wasn't
That dog
a
was
mistake.
not in good shape. But like,
no.
they always fucking do that. So you better not give me like one last great burst of energy right before I kill you. That'll be too much for me.
I'm just like really funny and wearing like
Yes.
a really great
You're
outfit.
on your absolute 100% like best work. Just slaying the friendship game so hard all day, and then I have to fucking poison your pasta salad.
It's for the best.
It is for the best. It's what Picaretto forced me to do. It's not my fault.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right.
So around
Anyway.
5:30 p.m., the hammer was overheard on the phone yelling, "I'll straighten that son of a bitch out," before leaving with a loaded pistol, stating that he would be back in an hour. So Monashino must have been like, "Hey, like Picaretto's pissed at you. Come down here. We got to talk about this."
Mm-hmm.
And Jimmy's like, "Okay, well, I'll fucking figure this out." Gets his gun, goes to meet him. By the time he arrived at the garage, he must have sensed something was wrong because he reached into his pocket and fumbled for his gun. But before he could draw his weapon, Jimmy the Hammer was shot.
Oh.
This is wild, too. So his close friends, Angelo Monashino, who had lured him to his shop, and Eugene DeFrancesco emptied a clip into his face.
Oh.
He was shot 8 times in the face and neck, 6 times in the head.
Oh.
And then they stuffed his body into the trunk of his own car. His body would be discovered just a few days later on November 28th, 1973. He was killed on November 23rd.
Okay, one thing I would never do is shoot you
me in the
6
face.
times in the face, 8
No.
times in the face.
That's too personal.
And your face is just gone.
Gone. And I like my face.
You want to look cute.
I want to look good when I meet my maker.
Yeah.
Massaro was murdered for complaining about activities of the mafia's leadership to criminals outside of the family and taking jobs from other gangs. So he complained about how much money he was paid. He got about $700 per arson job, or like $5 a day or hit or whatever they had him doing. He was basically just a heavy for the mafia.
Yeah.
So taking outside jobs may have been related to like his need to just make money because he wasn't making very much doing this. When testifying, Monachino would state that he, Monachino, never complained about receiving $700 for the 11 fires he helped set for the mob. And when asked what would happen if he did complain, he replied, Jimmy complained and he was killed. He also clarified that you don't do it for the money, as he was making at least $50,000 a year as president of his own construction business. Monachino was, not Jimmy the Hammer. But you do it for the mob family. It ain't much, but it's honest work. This was the first major hit of Rusatti's reign. It was probably used to show as a show of force, as a new dawn. Police would try to investigate, but nobody would talk because people were like, holy shit, he got fucking shot 8 times in the face and shoved in the trunk of his own car. Like,
by his best friends.
I'm not going to say shit about Rusatti's fucking management.
Absolutely
like, I'm going to keep my goddamn mouth shut.
Yes.
However, by 1975, Rochester police had arrested several low-level mob associates, one of whom was Angelo Monachino. As we know from his testimony, Monachino would flip and become one of several government informants that would be placed in witness protection. Upon interviewing their informants, police learned the truth behind various gangland murders, unsolved arsons, and the Valenti-era bombings, and of an alleged plot to assassinate Monroe County Sheriff William Lombard. These revelations, especially the latter, the potential assassination of a sheriff, angered law enforcement officials who now had a personal vendetta to take down the mafia. And when the police have a personal vendetta, work does not get done above board. So following the revelations of the bombings of the plot to kill the sheriff, police arrested the entire upper echelon of the Rochester crime family. So the boss, Red Rusatti, was arrested. Underboss Sammy G. Gongello was arrested. Rene Picaretto, Capo Thomas Murata, Soldier Eugene DeFrancesco, all of them are arrested and charged with the murder of Jimmy the Hammer Massaro. So the cops are using this murder as a way to just swoop in and arrest all these motherfuckers.
Scorched earth.
Yep. In addition to the leaders, middle-tier mobsters were also arrested and charged with crimes stemming from the revelations of the government witnesses. Showing widespread local corruption, some of the arrested included union leader Samuel Campanella, Teamster Anthony Gongello, lawyer Samuel J. DeGaetano, and Rochester Fire Chief Joseph Nallor, all of whom played various roles in these high-profile crimes, basically just like letting them get away with insurance fraud and like defending them in court for bullshit things. You know, people in unions that were higher up that were providing services. It was just, it's mob
The
shit.
facilitators.
Yeah. The information provided by the cooperating witnesses was corroborated with extensive surveillance reports of the Monroe County Sheriff's Department. The case against the mobsters was looking very strong. It was highly publicized and revealed the inner workings of the mafia in Rochester. However, those surveillance reports would prove not so ironclad.
Oh, no.
So now it's November of 1976, and all of these arrests and the surveillance reports and the heavy-hitting investigation resulted in the conviction of almost all of these defendants. Rusatti, Picaretto, Gongello, and 3 others received lengthy prison sentences that were handed down in January of 1977. And this was the first major success against the Rochester mob since Valenti's conviction and marked the first time anywhere in the nation that the leadership of an organized crime family were all convicted at the same time. So this was a huge fucking deal.
Dang.
Huge deal, like international press. This was like setting a precedent for other mob factions around the country.
The tides are turning.
The tides are turning. But unfortunately for the police, allegations of perjury during the Massaro trial sparked an investigation into the Monroe County Sheriff's Department.
Oh, my God.
Ultimately, it was determined that not only did the police lie, gasp, what? But they were also guilty of entrapment and fabricating evidence presented in the trial that led to these convictions.
That sucks.
Yep. Fabricated evidence included those extensive surveillance notes. Sheriff's detectives John Kennerson and William Marks fabricated this specific evidence. They said they staked out a house in November of 1937 on the day Monachino said Massaro's death was planned, even producing scribbled, not 37, 67, sorry, even producing scribbled surveillance notes. But the notes had no license numbers and were stored in Kennerson's basement and referred to a city directory that hadn't been published at the time of the alleged stakeout.
Oh,
so there's like even
God's
parts of the
sakes.
notes that didn't even exist when they wrote those notes. The chief detective, William Backroom Bill Mahoney, was found guilty of fabricating evidence and would serve a short jail sentence, and the investigation would reveal that he was notorious for beating suspects in interrogation rooms and forcing them to sign false confessions. Mahoney would only spend 4 months in jail alongside 5 other officers who were also indicted.
I'm sure they had a really great time in jail.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they were pretty well protected in there, and they were only in there for a few months, but yeah.
Still.
When in January 1978, a sheriff's department detective admitted to this in federal court, the convictions of Russotti and his Confederates were immediately overturned. On February 1st, 1978, all were released from prison after having served little more than a year.
Oh my
because
God.
they were guilty, but they tried them on false evidence. So all this
Yeah.
shit got overturned, and now they're back on the street, feeling untouchable.
Yeah.
Now we enter the Didio era and an all-out war. So in the year that all these higher-ups were imprisoned, power was left in the hands of various associates, with soldier Thomas Didio named acting boss in Russotti's absence. Didio was instructed to keep business as usual, keep power in the hands of the associates, and to take care of the families of the imprisoned mafia leaders. Apparently, though, Didio did not want to do this, and tensions would be high when Russotti returned home because Didio had a taste of power, and he refused to step down as acting boss. And this started a war and another split in the mob family in Rochester.
Oh, God.
Trying to maintain his power, he would seek advice from Stanley Valenti, brother of Frank the Sphinx Valenti, who in turn sought advice from his brother Frank. Frank saw it as an opportunity to regain some of his power after his release from prison and agreed to support Didio. Didio also got the allegiance of several mobsters, including Ross Chirico, looking to avenge his slain brother Dominic's death, and a man named Angelo Vaccaro. So this is basically the enemy of the enemy is my friend recruitment happening.
Mm-hmm.
The Rochester group quickly fractioned, picking sides, and the factions would be named A-Team. So the A-Team were those loyal to Russotti, and B-Team, those loyal to Valenti and Didio.
A-Team and B-Team were their legitimate names.
Yep. There's literally a note in here that says, guess they used up all their creativity on people's nicknames.
A-Team and B-Team.
A-Team and B-Team. And there comes the C-Team. So hold on for that. The resulting struggle would become known as the Alphabet Wars.
Oh my God, this is so dumb.
It's so deeply unserious given how many people were murdered.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing, you guys? Take it seriously.
Just at least be like the Falcons or something.
Anything.
A-Team and B-Team. Yellow
Anything
team
would
and
be better
red
than this.
team.
So a first act of, I want to say the A-Team, but I get them mixed up, was the assassination of Sammy G. So Salvatore Sammy G. Gangello. This is a B-Team act because this is Russotti's underboss and Russotti's A-Team. I'm so confused. Seen as the face of the Rochester crime family and the glue that held the family together. He was often seen at Rochester's finest restaurants, nightclubs, and social clubs, always wearing the most luxurious suits, driving the finest cars, and often with a beautiful woman on his arm. Stories of Gangello entering an establishment and purchasing rounds of drinks for dozens of strangers were common examples of his generosity, but contrasting stories of his foul temper and violence provided a glimpse into his ruthlessness. As the face of the Russotti-run family, he was quickly targeted for assassination, and the B-Team would attempt to kill him on numerous occasions. It was felt that his death would cause the A-Team to be thrown into chaos. Gangello employed 2 bodyguards, mob enforcers Thomas Torpy and Thomas Taylor, the 2 Toms, to provide muscle as needed. Tom-Tom. Literal Tom-Tom.
Oh, no.
To provide muscle as needed during Sammy G's outings. Because while there's a bounty out on his head, he's like, I'm not going to not go to the club. So these suits need somewhere to be worn. So the Toms better be at my side.
Oh, my God.
Plans considered and immediately discarded included lowering a bomb down his chimney, which was discarded because his home didn't have a chimney. Planting a bomb in a child's big wheel in front of his house, which was discarded as being too risky to neighborhood children.
No shit.
Yeah. Remember Big Wheel? I loved my Big Wheel.
I didn't have one. My cousin had one.
I would rip my Big Wheel. Well, they're made of plastic. I don't think they were that expensive.
Never got one.
But I would rip that motherfucker down the hill in front of my house. I can't believe I'm not dead. Another idea that got thrown out included detonating a bomb hidden in a traffic cone as Sammy G drove by, and this was discarded as it was felt it would damage the car but not injure the passenger inside. One attempt that they did carry out but didn't succeed included killing Sammy outside his favorite restaurant, the Blue Gardenia. On March 2nd, 1978, the killer, hiding in the trunk of a car in the parking lot, triggered a bomb hidden in a snowbank near the restaurant's entrance.
Good Lord.
The explosion knocked Sammy G off his feet, but he escaped any serious injury. There would be several more attempts without success. But finally, we do get a successful assassination of Sammy G, and it's bonks.
Okay.
At 1:15 a.m., they were very married to the bomb idea, so he definitely got blown up. But here's what happened.
Apparently. Is it because bomb is mob backwards?
Oh,
they felt
shit.
an allegiance. Mm-hmm.
Well,
I mean, I know that's not how you spell bomb, but.
No. But the B team is also Valenti's guys, and he was like kind of a mad bomber. So it's probably just to very much solidify that this is a B team takedown.
Bomb
So
team.
we have to blow him up. Bomb team. Yep. So at 1:15 a.m. on April 23rd, 1978, Goncello stopped at Ben's Cafe Society on Stilson Street downtown. So this sounds like a little restaurant, but it's a club.
Restaurant?
Along with his two bodyguards, the Toms, and two young nephews, this had been their third club stop of the circuit that night. Around 2 a.m., the nephews left, and 20 minutes later, Goncello and his bodyguards walked out. Goncello got into the driver's seat of a borrowed black Buick and closed the door. The two bodyguards, the Toms, go in, but before they closed their doors, a bomb placed under the car was detonated by remote control. Because the Toms had not had time to close their doors, they were blown out of the automobile, one fully out. The other had a broken foot from like being partially launched out of the car. But other than that, neither of them had any additional injuries other than like a little bit of a couple burns,
Wow.
a broken foot. They did okay.
Okay.
Tommy Taylor was the one in the front passenger seat. He got the broken foot, and Tom Torpy in the back seat was unharmed.
Okay.
Goncello was not as fortunate. His right leg was blown off below the knee.
Hey.
His left leg was nearly severed at the thigh. His entire body was blackened from the powder of the explosion. So they must have known he was driving and put it under the driver's side of the car. When questioned at the scene by police, because when police arrived, he was still alive.
Oh, God.
Goncello remained gangster till the end, refusing to speak to police and only giving the middle finger to a detective questioning him about the car bomb.
Oh.
He was taken to Genesee Hospital, where he died at 3:35 a.m. from shock and loss of blood.
Yikes.
So then it's like, holy shit, that's fucked up. Maybe we should get the teams together to try to negotiate some kind of truce, because they have successfully taken out Sammy G. Just days after Sammy G's assassination, A and B teams would attempt to negotiate to end the war, but were unsuccessful. On May 19th, 1978, Didio's men embarked on a bombing campaign, setting off more explosions at A-team gambling parlors and social clubs throughout the city, including throwing a pipe bomb through the window of a social club. They could have killed so many people. I can't believe people weren't dying left and right.
There's just so many bombs.
And there were no casualties other than this targeted one.
That's so wild.
It was being used as a fear tactic. I don't think they were actually trying to kill anyone. They were just trying to fuck shit up.
It's just terrorism.
Except for Sammy G. Yeah, it's terrorism.
Mm-hmm.
May 25th, in retaliation, the A-team shot Rosario Chirico in his home. Other gun battles and bombings would follow. Police would attempt to intervene, locking up who they could, but it was like all-out warfare. They couldn't keep up. On July 6, 1978, Didio was gunned down by a submachine gun at the Exit 45 motel in the nearby suburb of Victor, which is very cute and has great restaurants. Around the same time, law enforcement would arrest several B-team members who were in possession of sticks of dynamite, likely on their way to attack A-team members. The war would serve to bring the eyes of local and national media, as well as law enforcement, onto the family and mob activities of Rochester. Determined to break up the factions, investigations were conducted not only into the bombings and shootings, but also into gambling, loan sharking, extortion, arson, and various other mob-influenced rackets. Known mobsters were frequently stopped, often arrested for carrying weapons. B-team members would be brought in and charged for the slaying of Sammy G and the bombings of the Russotti gambling parlors. And in January of 1980, 7 men would be found guilty on racketeering charges. They always get them on this like financial charge, money charge shit, and not for throwing bombs into public spaces and like murdering people in their homes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it takes a smarter person to clean up after your paper trail than it does to clean up like physical forensics.
Yeah.
You know
probably.
what I mean?
Especially with a bomb, like that can make the forensics so chaotic. You know, maybe it was just harder to know exactly who was behind them. And so it's like, we got to go with where there's a paper trail.
Yeah. And also maybe that paper trail stuff is like quicker to get a
conviction.
Not even
or
just
like
a
a
conviction,
charge.
but like a charge, like an arrest.
Yeah.
To get them off the street.
Just to get them off the street.
Then we'll piece together what else they did and who they're connected
And
to.
see if they can add more charges. That's a good point. Now enter the C team.
Jesus Christ.
I know. With the B team mostly dead or in jail, the A team / Russotti camp would come out of the war victorious and would resume business as usual for the Rochester crime family, mostly running gambling parlors. Things would quiet down for a little bit. However, there would be internal strife, sparking off an internal rebellion and the creation of the C team. So the C team is a rebellious subsection of the A team and not affiliated with the B team.
Oh, okay. Not affiliated
Not
with the
affiliated.
BT. Okay, got it. Got it.
On December 17th, 1981, Teamsters Local 398 vice president and alleged capo in the A-team, Johnny Flowers Fiorino, was shot in the back of the head outside of the Blue Gardenia restaurant, same as the Snowbank bombing from earlier. This seems to have been like a mob hotspot.
I want to go.
I know, me too. A rookie police officer named Michael DiGiovanni lived nearby and happened to drive by at the time of the shooting. He chased down the assailant who fired the bullet and fled in a Cadillac. The two exchanged gunfire and the driver, Luis DeGulio, was arrested. A second man fled the scene by hiding in a snowbank and escaping via the abandoned trolley tracks. Using the snow to their advantage was such a skill. I love it. Unfortunately, he would later be apprehended through fingerprint analysis and be identified as famous Irish-American mafia hitman and wanted fugitive Joseph Mad Dog Sullivan. Investigators would soon learn the hit was ordered by a newcomer to the Alphabet Wars, the C Team. The C Team was led by former Sammy G bodyguards, the Toms.
The Toms.
Yup, known as the Two Toms.
Oh my God.
Mad Dog Sullivan originally met the Toms during a prison stint in Attica. So Thomas Taylor was in Attica. That's where he met Mad Dog.
Okay.
He was hired to take out Johnny Flowers and also kill the new underboss, Richard Mariano, and another mobster the Toms held a vendetta against. So the Toms, who had been in service to Sammy G, were like, no, I'm not fucking working for Russotti now that Sammy G's dead. Fuck that. They took out our dude. I'm making the C Team.
Okay.
And we're getting revenge.
Okay.
Police theorized that Fiorino was murdered to prevent him from testifying to a grand jury and a federal organized crime strike force. Police believe Fiorino's murder was carried out to set an example for others and to send a message as to whose side should be chosen during the planned takeover. A lot of messages being sent through blood and gore.
Yeah. And explosives.
There were also fears that Fiorino could unify the racketeers and take over the family himself, as he held a longstanding reputation of being the most accessible mobster since Sammy G. He had great connections. People liked him and people were willing to follow him. So they were like, we got to take his ass out because he's going to be the next one on top.
Good optics.
Yep. This unexpected hit caused violence to roar back to life in the Rochester underworld. In March of 1982, Taylor and Torpy, the Toms, and C-Team members Michael and Thomas Peluzio entered a social club and beat a man so severely he wound up in the hospital.
Oh, for
and
what?
He's one of Russotti's men. This insulted Russotti, who was linked to the club. Russotti retaliated the following month by ordering through Rene Picaretto the execution of members of the insurgent faction. So he's like, you got to take out the C-Team. They got to go. Nicholas Mastradonto was murdered that same month, followed by the murder of Gerald Pelusio. Gerald was an unaffiliated brother of Michael and Thomas, who police suspected had been mistaken for one of the mafiosos. So he was related to one of these mob guys, but wasn't even in the mafia, and he got murdered, like by mistake.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Do your homework.
Right. Upset that his fellow A-team members had crossed him, Russotti ordered the hits on more and more men. Murders of several mobsters bloodied the streets of Rochester throughout the summer of 1982. A crushing blow would soon come in court, however, as police carefully use evidence this time from legitimate means to deliver indictments.
Finally.
Finally, 10 years later, dude.
Jesus Christ.
On November 10th, 1982, boss Red Russotti, Consigliere Picaretto, and 8 others were handed federal RICO indictments. So again, I think you're right about the whole paper trail thing. It's like, we got to get them on what we know we can get them on with real hard evidence when the forensics aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
Federal officials charged them with a wide variety of crimes, including murder. All of the 10 mobsters indicted made bail and were soon back on the streets, and it did not take long for the Alphabet Wars to resume. There would be several more retaliatory murders and attempted murders back and forth between A-team and C-team. B-team is basically like, we're good for now.
Yeah.
Y'all have your own shit going on.
Seem to have your own issues.
Y'all are a mess. Work it out amongst yourselves.
Can you guys take this to another room?
Can you guys fucking chill?
Just kiss and get it over with.
Yep. The government had begun its assault on the Rochester family with 2 RICO trials during the 1980s. There would be charges of racketeering, murder, attempted murder, extortion, arson, obstruction of justice, and more. Assisting in the prosecution would be key government witnesses Angelo Monachino and Tony Oliveri, who were both made members of the mafia cooperating with authorities. So just to note, a made man or a made member is a fully initiated member of the mafia. So this would be like a really good get as an informant for the government because they're very trusted.
Mm-hmm.
To become made, an associate first must be Italian or of Italian descent and sponsored by another made man. Be required to take the oath of omerta, the mafia code of silence and code of honor. Some families require that a candidate commit murder as part of the initiation. And after the induction ceremony, the associate becomes a made man and holds the rank of soldier in the mafia hierarchy.
Yeah.
Made men are the only ones who can rise through the ranks of the mafia from soldier to capo regime, consigliere, underboss, and boss. They're legit. So it's kind of wild that some of these folks became informants because they're so trusted within the mob.
Yeah, why would you throw all that away to help the I guess
if the law is closing in on you, people are willing to throw all their have no scruples, throw them all out the window and be like, fuck it, I'm gonna sing like a canary. But then you risk death from the mob.
Yeah. Also, if you have a family or something and kids and you want to just get out of the whole thing.
It's an impossible situation. Organized crime is not it.
They'll make you kill your best friend.
They'll make you kill your best friend. And I'm just not going to do that.
That's
maybe.
That's quite a pickle.
I'm most likely not going to do that.
It's not zero.
It's a non-zero chance. They outlined in chronological order the events in question and placed all blame on the indicted mafiosi. On October 30th, 1984, all but 3 of these men were convicted, including Russotti and Picaretto. Unable to escape legal trouble themselves, the 2 Toms were also reined in by authorities. The getaway driver for the Fiorino hit, Louis DeGuglio, ended up cooperating with police and confessed to everything, placing blame on the 2 Toms who were indicted on that killing in 1983. Initially a mistrial, so the first trial, they couldn't figure it out, but they were eventually convicted and served lengthy prison sentences that were handed down in August of 1985. Effectively beheading the Rochester crime family and putting an end to the street war triggered by the Massaro hit 12 years prior. So all of this that happened all those years ago with the killing of Jimmy the Hammer started the breakdown within the A-team, essentially, which birthed the C-team from the 2 Toms who went over with Sammy G, and they all just kept fighting with each other until everybody was either dead or in jail.
It's like a huge house of cards.
It's a rat king.
It's a total rat king.
It's an absolute fucking rat king of mob violence and chaos. It was wild.
Yeah, I'm not envious of any of
No.
this.
No. So this was basically the end of everything. With Russotti and the rest of the family's hierarchy sent to prison, again, the Rochester Mafia was left leaderless. Senior members left on the streets were either unable or unwilling to take over the reins, and leadership fell into the hands of a younger generation of mobsters. Angelo Amico stepped up as acting boss, according to informants. He was aided by appointed underboss Lauren Picaretto, which is the son of the now in jail Picaretto.
Mm-hmm.
Both were sons of former mafia leaders. Almost immediately following the convictions of most of Rochester's mafia leaders, police bugged Amico and Picaretto's regular gathering spots, the new leaders, and indicted them on racketeering charges on October 3rd of 1987, which was my dad's birthday and right after I was born. Like 4 days after I was born.
Cute.
3 days. All were charged with violating federal anti-racketeering laws. Amico was also charged with filing false tax returns and conspiracy to defraud the government. In late October 1988, Amico pleaded guilty to both counts of the racketeering and conspiracy indictment and to one count of tax evasion in a separate indictment. Amico was sentenced to 14 years in prison. At the time of the arrest, Roger P. Williams, the acting U.S. attorney for Western New York, told reporters, quote, "These individuals are the last remnants of what we know to be organized crime in Rochester." By 1990, the Rochester Mafia was reduced in both size and influence to little more than a street gang. Members and associates still alive and out of prison were either inactive or seemingly lacking supervision. In June of 1993, Red Russotti, who had still been controlling the moribund crime family from behind bars, died of a heart attack, signaling the end of any powerful mafia in Rochester and certainly leaving the remaining wise guys leaderless.
Yeah, what are you really controlling at that point?
Mm-hmm. It was all shot. It was all shot through. Swiss cheese, baby.
Ugh.
Then in October 1993, Rochester police raided 3 gambling parlors, and this raid would become one of the last signs of successful activity of any organized Italian-American crime group in Rochester, New York.
Mm.
And that is my story today.
Damn.
Wasn't that wild?
It was complex.
It was very complex. I love mafia stories, but they're so complicated because there's so many people and so many changings of like hands and guard and it's a lot of names
and alliances.
It's so many alliances made and broken and made again, and it's a lot. But it's The Departed, baby.
Yeah,
it's The Departed.
A movie that I had to watch about 4 times before I really followed.
Girl, I still don't get it. I still don't get it. Maybe I'll try that again. Maybe that's what Bill and I will watch tonight for movie night.
It's a pretty good. I think that's a good movie.
Just to see if I can keep up with it.
Yeah. It'll send me back to like college and just watching it at some boy's dorm room.
Yep.
Such a college boy movie.
It really is a college boy movie.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
Like, I can smell that movie.
I can smell the pennies on the sheets of the boys who watch that movie.
Dude, I was just going to say that reminds me of boys who don't change their sheets and there's just spare change in their beds, on the bathtub floors.
Mm-hmm.
That and the movie Departed and like Bud Light.
A very specific era. Oh, yeah.
Keg of Bud Light.
Oh, God. Absolutely not. No thanks.
You couldn't pay me to go back.
Never. Never.
Like, it was fun. That's a book I don't ever want to reread.
Nope. We closed it for a reason.
Yep.
It's done.
And so are we.
And so are we.
Thank you to Elise Pangrazio.
I hope we did you proud, girl. I hope we did.
I hope so, too. I mean, Elise wanted the Genesee River Killer covered, so.
And she got it.
Hope you're happy. Thank you for participating in our Hog Girl summer purchase drawing thing that we did. And stay tuned for more of those limited merch campaigns and more opportunities to win your own fan pick episode.
Yes.
And thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Wine and Crime. Our cover art is by Danielle Sylvan. Music by Phil Young and Corey Wendell. Editing by Jonathan Camp. Our production manager is Andrea Gardner. For photos and sources, check out our blog at wineandcrimepodcast.com. You can follow us on all the socials at Wine and Crime Pod. If you have questions, answers, or recommendations to share, email us at wineandcrimepodcast@gmail.com. Episodes are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. If you like the show, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. It is the best way to spread the word. If you'd like to show your support and get access to all sorts of wine-fueled bonus content, visit our Patreon page. Cheers!